Fu Thao Media Ven, welcome to a world where the boundary between the heavenly Tao and the demon lord is slowly collapsing. At the ruins of the ancient Skyfall city beneath a sky drenched in blood-red aura, the sword cultivator Ling Ruoli falls into a pool of her own blood. Just as her life force is about to fade, an ancient voice echoes from the void. The formless profound sovereign, an entity sealed since primordial times, grants her the blood mark. In an instant her wounds vanish, her power erupts, and a three-headed six-armed Dharma manifestation materializes behind her. But the price is steep, her will begins to erode under its influence. Elsewhere, the young Chen Mathan inadvertently becomes the target of that dark force. Bearing the heavenly meridian divine bone within him, he is the final piece needed for the profound sovereign to restore his true body. While being hunted down, Mothan enters the starbound stone seal and witnesses the evolution of heaven and earth, comprehending the fundamental laws that govern all things. Meanwhile, the holy temple blindly continues breaking ancient seals, believing it to be the path to godhood. None of them realize they are opening the gateway that will unleash the demon lord. As the final two seals begin to tremble, destiny starts to converge. One side seeks to seize a body for rebirth. The other seeks to master the heavenly Tao, to protect the world. The war is about to begin. At the heart of the ancient Skyfall city, where the blood aura had yet to fade from the shattered ground, Ling Ruoli's resurrection was no longer a miracle, it was a declaration from the demon lord. As the blood mark burned into the center of her brow, the spiritual power within her erupted violently, shattering every limit that had once bound her cultivation realm. Dark crimson patterns spread along her arms, and behind her a three-headed six-armed Dharma manifestation slowly took form, radiating a pressure so immense that space itself began to tremble. The remaining experts of Skyfall City recoiled in horror. The woman who had fallen only moments before now stood again, her eyes cold and unfamiliar. Her sword key was no longer pure. It was laced with a deep, sinister demonic aura. With every slash of her blade, the earth split apart and the protective spirit arrays shattered like glass. From the void, the voice of the formless profound sovereign echoed once more. He had not merely granted power, he had granted an opportunity to evolve. But the price was freedom of will. Ling Ruoli retained her memories, remained aware of who she was. Yet loyalty to the profound sovereign had been carved into her instincts. That moment marked the true emergence of the Bloodmark faction. And from that point on, the wheel of fate began to turn toward Chen Mathan, the one who carried within him the final piece the demon lord sought. Ling Ruoli's transformation was only the beginning. Within a hidden layer of space behind the ancient Skyfall city, the formless profound sovereign observed everything with a cold, detached gaze. He was in no hurry. He understood well that the blood mark was merely a temporary tool. His true objective was to reclaim the spirit bodies that had been scattered during the long years of his sealing. Streams of crimson light drifted around his phantom figure, each representing one of the 9 fragments that had once been torn from his true body. 7 of them had gradually awakened as the ancient seals weakened. But the final 2 fragments still lay adrift within the mortal world. One was bound to a ritual the holy temple was secretly preparing. The other existed within the body of a human. The profound sovereign let out a faint chuckle. His gaze pierced through layers of space, settling upon a young man fleeing through a desolate forest. Chen Mathan. The heavenly meridian divine bone within the boy's body was the final piece needed to complete his demonic form. That body was always meant to be mine. From that moment on, Mothan's fate no longer belonged to him. Ling Ruoli, now the most powerful of the bloodbound thralls, received her command to track him down. The scheme to reclaim the spirit bodies had officially begun, and the machinery of the hunt was now in motion, irreversible and relentless. Haunted by the bloodbound thralls, and the mysterious force behind them, Chen Mathan was driven into desperation time and again. On one such occasion, cornered at the edge of Starfall Cliff, with Ling Ruoli's blood aura pressing in from behind his body, suddenly resonated with the ancient seal he carried, the starbound stone seal. A surge of radiant light erupted, swallowing Mathan into its inner domain. Inside there was no heaven or earth, only boundless void and streams of light interwoven like the veins of the cosmos. He witnessed the birth of galaxies, heard the pulse of spiritual energy, and felt the silent laws that upheld the world in motion. There was no demonic force seeking to dominate, only order and evolution. Lines of Tao inscriptions emerged within his sea of consciousness, layering into a complete and intricate structure. In that moment, Mothan understood true power did not come from seizing, but from comprehending. As clarity filled his mind, an ancient blade quietly manifested before him, the world-subduing profound saber. Its edge emitted no killing intent. Instead, it resonated in harmony with the rhythms of heaven and earth. When Mothan opened his eyes once more, his aura had changed. His cultivation had not surged explosively like that granted by the bloodmark, yet his gaze now carried the depth of one who had touched the essence of the world itself. And at that very instant the profound sovereign felt it as well. His fragment was awakening in a way he had never anticipated. When Chen Mathan emerged from the inner realm of the starbound stone seal, he was no longer the boy who only knew how to flee. The Tao inscriptions he had just comprehended allowed him to see through the flow of spiritual energy beneath the earth, and to hear the faint cracking of ancient seals as they weakened. And then he realized a truth that sent a chill through his heart: the tremors were not natural. Following the traces of the world's laws, Mothin secretly drew close to the holy temple. Behind their grand proclamations of the path to godhood, the elders were working together to activate a massive sacrificial array. 7 pillars of ceiling had already collapsed, and the spirit inscriptions etched into the ground were stained with a faint blood aura, imperceptible to ordinary people. Only the final 2 seals remained, barely restraining whatever slumbered beneath. Through the Tao inscriptions, Mothin saw more clearly than anyone else. Below was no divine miracle, but the sealed true body of the formless profound sovereign. The Holy Temple believed they were reaching towards supreme divinity, when in truth they were loosening the chains that bound the demon lord. If the last 2 seals were shattered, the scattered spirit bodies would converge into one, and when that happened, it would not only be Mothin's body at risk. The entire world would become a sacrifice for the rebirth of the demon. As the Holy Temple's grand array began to turn, the sky above the altar darkened into a deep crimson. The final 2 seals emitted heavy cracking sounds like iron chains stretched to their breaking point. Chen Mothin knew he was out of time. He stepped straight into the center of the formation. The world-subduing profound saber trembled softly in his hand. Tao inscriptions circulating around him like rings of starlight forming a protective barrier. The elders, stricken with shock, had no time to react before the space behind the altar was torn apart. From that rift, the formless profound sovereign manifested, his figure illusory, yet his pressure blanketed all directions. Blood aura surged like a raging tide. At his side, Ling Ruoli stepped forward silently, her gaze devoid of hesitation. Nothing remained but absolute loyalty. You have seen the truth. All the more reason you cannot be allowed to exist, the profound sovereign said coldly, his eyes locking onto the heavenly meridian divine bone within Mothin's body. That body was always mine. Facing the demon lord and his most powerful bloodbound thrall, Mothin tightened his grip on the saber's hilt. On one side stood a force that seized and devoured to perfect its form. On the other, the very laws of heaven and earth he had only just begun to comprehend. When the first arc of saber light tore through the curtain of blood aura, the battle between the heavenly Tao and the demonic form officially erupted. Blood aura and saber light continued to tear apart the sky above the holy temple. After their first collision, the ground around the altar had collapsed in massive sections. Yet the most terrifying sight was not the aftershock of battle, it was the final 2 seals trembling violently. Dark crimson cracks spread across them like living veins, signaling that the release of the demonic body was only breaths away. Chen Mothin dropped to one knee, still gripping the world-subduing profound saber tightly. The Tao inscriptions circling him had not dispersed, but they had grown faint after the direct clash with the profound sovereign. Across from him, the formless profound sovereign merely curled his lips in a faint smile. He had not truly joined the battle, everything so far had been nothing more than a test. Ling Ruoli stood between them, her Dharma manifestation flickering within the blood-red glow. For a fleeting instant, as their eyes met, something seemed to waver. But the blood mark quickly suppressed it once more. This battle was not merely about victory or defeat. It was a struggle for control over the world's destiny. If the seals shattered, the demonic body would descend upon the world. But if the Tao inscriptions were completed first, the tide could still be turned. Will Mothin stop the ritual in time? Can Ling Ruoli break free from the blood mark? Fu Thao Media Ven thanks you for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter. If you're ready to follow this story all the way to the final battle, leave the number 8 below.